All right, so after you copy these down, okay, this first one, these are going to get a little tricky. And they're going to get tricky because we're going to have a lot of subtract negatives and opposite ofs in here. I would start by copying down this. So I have y minus x plus 6.8. And I'm going to replace the y with the 7.2 and the x with the negative 2. So sometimes it's helpful to put in parentheses like this for where I'm going to plug stuff in. And the reason that's helpful is because now I have negatives in here. So the first one, the y, I'm going to plug in the 7.2. And then for x, I'm going to plug in negative 2. Do you see why this is helpful now? Because now I have to look at that as subtract the negative 2. And so kind of once I have it like that, it's really easy for me to say, oh yeah, that needs to become plus 2. So now I have 7.2 plus 2 plus 6.8, which they're all positive, so that's going to make my life really easy. So I would probably go ahead and do 7 plus 2 is 9.2 plus 6.8. And then I'd add those two together. So I'm getting, yeah, a whole number of 16. Okay, all right, let's look at letter B. If you have a question, just ask. If I'm going too fast, you don't get something, let me know. All right, so this next one, I have y minus x minus 2. Again, my suggestion would be to go ahead and put in a parenthesis where you're going to put in your numbers. This would be a double. Do you guys remember those brackets that you were asking me about? Here's where I would use brackets because I'm putting parentheses inside a parenthesis. But this will help me realize that when I plug in an x, I'm plugging in a negative 3 right here. And for my y, I'm plugging in 5.2. All right, so now if I look inside here, now I can see I have a negative 3 minus 2, which would be how much? Negative 5, good. So I have 5.2 minus what I have in here, which is 5.5. And so I know I'm going to have a negative number. What you might want to do, if you want to change your signs, you can like that. Because now I know, hey, these two are different, so I really need to subtract out the 5.2 and get 0.3. It's going to stay negative because 5.5 is larger than 5.2, and so I'm going to get negative 0.3 or negative 0.3. Are those tricky? I would think they'd be a little tricky. All right. Well, if you thought that was easy, let's look at these crazy ones. And you can just write down one at a time if you want. 7 is obviously a challenge problem, so we probably won't do that one unless you just really want to. Why don't you guys go ahead and just try number 5, and let's just see how close you get, and then that way that'll give you an idea of if you're really getting this or not. Just give it your best shot. Alright, check what you've got so far with mine. Let me explain what I did. So I put in my parentheses, and this was negative 3.4 minus 5, which means they're both negative, so I need to be adding them together. And I got a negative 8.4. So that's what I put inside the parentheses. So I now have 8.2 minus a negative 8.4. But the problem is now I have minus a negative, which is going to turn this whole thing into a positive. So now I have 8.2 plus 8.4. So I have 8 and 8, which is 16.6, which is my final answer. I heard a lot of erasing that time, which is okay, because hopefully you're learning from your mistakes. All right, any questions on that one before we do 6? Okay, now look at number 6. Remember how I said this would show up again? What does this negative y mean? Bailey? Very good. You do the opposite of y equals. So this is negative 3.4. So the opposite of y would be a positive 3.4. So I'm going to put that in. And then I'm going to put minus. I'm going to go ahead and stick my parentheses in. And then I'm going to put in my x, which is 8.2. All right. So now I basically have 3.4 minus 8.2, which means that's a negative 8.2 and a positive 3.4. So I really need to be subtracting them. So I have 8.2 minus 3.4. I have to borrow here. So I'm getting 4.8. Should that be positive or negative? Should be negative because this 8 is larger than this 3. So negative 4.8. Okay? All right, we're not doing number 7. Number 7's like a challenge problem. So we don't need to do that one. We're good. All right, with that, we're going to move right into practice time.